Coming out of the game yesterday, reflecting back on our team's performance, another example of some complimentary football in all three phases. Thought the crowd was unbelievable. Continue to be a huge part of our success at home, and have made it a very, very tough place for our opponents to come in and play. And I think our players are really thriving and responding off that energy. A lot of great performances across the board. We talked about post game yesterday. Also wanted to add in there Chris Boyd on special teams, getting a game ball today. Watching the tape, he continues to impact the game at a very, very high level and making game-changing plays for us on the special teams front. Thought the offensive line establishing themselves up front in the run game, getting things going for Dalvin and Alex across the board. We're a really physical group, and running for 6 yards a carry against any team in this league is very difficult to do, and thought they really set the tone and one of the main reasons we were able to establish some success on offense. And against a very talented offense on the other side. Za'Darius, we talked a lot about yesterday, but Danielle Hunter showed up quite a bit on tape. Eric Kendricks, Jordan Hicks, some real solid performances to go along with the guys on the back end, turning the ball over, and Pat P with the 3 PBUs. And, Cam with a really tough challenge with Hopkins, drawing the Hopkins matchup quite a few times. Real competitive throughout the day. Hopkins was going to always get his plays. He's a premier player in this league, but really like the way Cam battled and competed, allowing us to, get the victory across the board. We'll continue to improve. Got a couple injuries that don't have a ton of updates yet quite, on Irv or Dalvin Tomlinson. We're going to continue to evaluate those guys over the next couple days, and I'll give you guys an update coming up on Wednesday. But it is looking like a week-to-week type scenario for those guys.
Okay, we'll start with Joe and then Matthew.
Yeah, Kevin, I know it's obviously a point of emphasis to score after a turnover, but how much did it make a difference in this game when you held Arizona to a field goal after the Vikings turnover? You were able to turn yours into touchdowns. They turned theirs into a field goal.
Yeah, I thought it was a huge part of the game. That's the complimentary football, although we're still looking for ultimate consistency across the board when we can have the turnover battle won in our favor, but also turn those into points, meaning touchdowns, and then for our defense to hold to a field goal. That's a great point. As far as just the ebbs and flows of momentum in a football game, that all of these games, I know it's been well documented throughout the whole league. We're on a record pace for one-score games and things like that. I just think you're seeing that each and every game in this league is going to come down to a few plays here and there that really are the difference between it being those one-score games or maybe having a chance to try to put away some opponents throughout some of these games. So we're going to continue to strive for those plays to go in our favor. But we talked about a lot of those winning plays that we saw in all three phases yesterday that really, were just hammered home watching the tape today.
Hey, Kevin, after the game yesterday, multiple players talked about kind of the culture that's been created and how that's resonated with them. I guess, what do you think it specifically has connected, especially with the veteran players when, Za'Darius Smith, somebody who's been around, is talking about how this is different in terms of the atmosphere? Like, why do you think that that's connected well with a lot of the veteran players?
Well, I think starting with the consistency that we've approached it with from really I can think back to the first meeting in the spring that I had with the team. We didn't talk about X's and O's. We didn't talk about football philosophy. We talked about culture. We talked about what the hope would be to build within our locker room, within our building. How do we all become the best versions of ourselves? How do we all become the best collective group as this year's version of the Minnesota Vikings? I feel very strongly about some core principles of really what it looks like, what it feels like. It's hard to put into individual examples. It's more of a player ownership of those guys, especially our leaders. We inherited a great group of leaders, both guys that have been here for a long time, but then some additions like Za'Darius that have been major parts of building our core foundation beliefs of what we want to be as a team. And then those guys have really come together. Every team in this league has an opportunity to grow together every single day they come to work. We've tried to just build an environment here where we work incredibly hard to attack each and every week. We do it together. We hold each other accountable. That's coaches to players, players to coaches, and everybody in between. And if you stay consistent in that, both in the wins and the losses, they just know the only thing that I can control as the head coach is I'm the same. I want to be the same guy for this team every single day. Through the highs and the lows, I want to be consistently leading from the front and being somebody that our guys and our players, both veterans and young players, as the example of what our standard is. And the best part about all that is I told our team Saturday night I feel like they've not only taken the ownership of that, but they've also taken it to a place that I didn't know was really possible, as far as 8 weeks into the season, and we've been able to do that, and the results have only helped that. But our process to get there is what matters the most to me.
So Andrew, Alec, and Ben.
Hey, Kevin, with Dalvin Tomlinson just picking up that injury, how do you size up just the impact he's had for you? And then if you have to put him on the shelf for a little bit, how do you feel about the depth that you've got on the interior line?
Yeah, I've talked to you guys about Dalvin. Not always going to get the headlines, the stats, the sacks, all those things, but he has been a force for us up front. Every single week we come in after these games, and Chris Rump's telling our staff, DT had another really great game and showed up in the run and the pass. He's really activated some dynamic rush moves and speed to power and different athletic, winning one-on-one matchup type moments in games. If he's going to indeed be down, we want to get him healthy as soon as we possibly can, whether that's this week or if he's unable to go, we're going to need that group to step up. And that's where that depth really showed yesterday. I thought Harrison Phillips, played one of his complete games of the season. We saw him show up a little bit in some rush, which was really important, trying to keep Kyler Murray, in that pocket and allow those edge guys to have chances to get home without disrupting the integrity of that pocket, where he would have the ability to get up and out and attack, which he's one of the best in the league at doing. So just across the board, we're going to need those guys top to bottom, all finding their own roles. We had Tonga up for the first time active, and I thought his strength and play strength really showed up at times in the run game, which will be something we'll need to obviously see more of, as well as some of those other guys on maybe some of those passing downs.
Hey, Kevin, you mentioned the O-line and the run game, but what features of the ground attack yesterday do you think made it so successful from the get-go?
Yeah, I think, Alec, there was really two parts to it. We had I thought, Chris Cooper and Curtis Modkins and Justin Riscotti came up with some good schemes coming out of the bye to really take advantage of getting back to kind of that premier mentality and having a plan set up to where if we didn't like the look of a run, what run were we getting to really take advantage of what would take away the initial call. And then it's on Kirk to really run the whole show. And I thought his decision making at the line of scrimmage when he was canning plays, orchestrating a lot of things late in the play clock to really highlight some of that plan and have it come to life were a real part of what made yesterday go. And I think we got, Dalvin Cook going early in the game. I really liked that, third and short conversion where we were able to kind of almost misdirection, get him out on the perimeter there for a 30-yard hit. We ended up having a penalty to take some of that yardage away. But just getting him in space and then complementing him with Alexander for some physicality, some one-cut running that Alex brings to the table that is a real plus factor for our offense. So both those guys, I thought their touchdown runs down in the red zone were perfect examples of kind of the run game plan coming to fruition, different types of aiming points, different window dressing with different guys on jet sweeps or motions to set up angles, and not getting too far into the weeds on the X's and O's of it, but just a really solid plan. A lot of things we talked about as a staff came to light, and I did think there was a little bit more out there that maybe with a little bit better, perfect execution we're always looking for as coaches. That's part of doing our jobs. But I was really proud of those guys up front, and I thought Johnny Munt blocked really well as well as Irv, having their impact in the run game as well as CJ.
Kevin, as the trade deadline hits tomorrow, you're going through this for the first time as a head coach. What's your approach to it? Is it the kind of thing where you are in Kwesi's office saying, hey, let's go try to add to the roster? Or how do you go about it tomorrow as you guys go into the trade deadline?
We're in constant communication, going back to, and it's not just the trade deadline, it's any time we could possibly, make a roster move off of someone else's practice squad or whatever it may be. Maybe it's just adding a piece on our own practice squad that we want to take a look at. We're constantly trying to take a look at how we can take a winning roster right now at 6-1 and try to continue to find those edges to give ourselves the best possible chance to win football games. Obviously, with the deadline tomorrow, we'll continue to work through anything that may be out there that makes sense for us as an organization. And there's there's a lot of different, rumors and things that go around this time of year with a lot of teams that end up not being true. So we'll see how it plays out. One thing I know is I'll probably jump right off this call and head right back down the hall and be in that communication mode with Kwesi, and we'll figure things out as we go here.
Chris and Kevin, and then we'll close with Dawn and Dave.
Yeah, Kevin, with possibly Irv Smith out for a period, how do you kind of assess the tight end situation, on the team? Obviously, Ben Ellefson's still on IR, and then you, of course, touched upon how well Johnny Munt is playing. Maybe you could add some more on him as well.
Yeah, I think, Irv, every single snap, I really have felt like Irv's been getting better and more comfortable coming off of, the injury from last year. So it was unfortunate to see him go down late in the game. We're hoping for some good news on Irv as he continues to get evaluated with our staff. But just looking at the group in general, we'll have one more week till we can possibly activate Ben, and he's been really attacking his rehab and seems to be right on schedule. All the updates I get, hopefully we'll be able to add him back into the mix sooner rather than later. And then Johnny Munt has been ultra consistent for us. There's been a lot of plays that maybe don't show up on the stat sheet that Johnny Munt's just playing good football. Glad to get him in the end zone yesterday with some good execution down there in the low red zone. We had Jacob Hollister up for the game, and Nick Muse has really been improving as well. So when I look at that group, whether it's a week-to-week thing, whatever we see like we need to do to continue to evolve as an offense and have that tight end position be a big part of what we do, with some real opportunities inside out in the pass game when you have the weapons we do at the receiver position. So that's our job as a staff, to continue to give Kirk all of the weapons and all of the possibilities to make 5 eligibles come to life, and expect a lot out of that whole room when their number's called.
Yeah, Kevin, you mentioned Cam Dantzler earlier. Was that sort of the game plan heading in, to have him match some against Hopkins, or is that just kind of the way the game flowed, or were you just interested to see how that would happen, or what was the background there?
Yeah, our guys were playing sides, so it was really more probably, whether it's game flow or maybe the Cardinals trying to design some things with Pat being on one side playing really well, and maybe they felt like that was their best option, was to try to align him over there. And that's where I thought Cam really answered the challenge. And, you can look at the stat sheet a lot of different ways, but in the end, we made enough plays to win the football game. And I think Cam had a lot to do with that.
Hey, Kevin, I have a quick 2-part. First, when you talk about Kirk and his decision-making at the line of scrimmage, especially to get that opening touchdown and the way he did, he said, I just decided all right, it's open. I'm going to go for it, and diving through. I mean, obviously he's a former quarterback, but it seems he's also, in addition to decision-making, making sure that he's aggressive as well. That seems to be maybe something that we don't always see. You see that at practice. You like to see it show up on the sheet, don't you?
Yeah, Don, he's talked about it before, his ability, especially when people are not going to account for him. It's not very often that Kirk faces defenses with a linebacker or a safety spying him. No more oftentimes than not that those players are trying to account for Justin and Adam and KJ and Irv and Johnny and our running back. So when Kirk feels a seam like that, I think when he's impacted the game with his legs, there's a lot that goes into it pre-snap. He knows the coverage. He knows whether it is man or zone, whether there's going to be vision on him or more on the receivers. And just like he did, in that Chicago game to get us a big crucial first down in the high red before we went in to score. I thought him not only getting the first down right there, but then just, I think he almost hit 19 miles an hour on that scramble, turning the corner to go into the end zone. And our team really got a lot of juice out of that. It was another example of us getting an opportunity to have the ball to start a game and go down and get 7 points. And I thought Kirk's execution, not only on that play, but we get a second and kind of long 2nd and 10 type play where he hits Justin for an explosive, being aggressive, anticipating that throw, just really high quarterback play.
And my quick follow-up has to do with legs as well. Before the game, my photographer kind of got a picture of Luigi and Metellus kind of in their costumes. In front of them was Lewisine, and he was walking without a cast, without crutches, and was looking great, which kind of seems miraculous with a compound fracture. So I know you can't give away much, but he seems to be doing really well in his recouping, if you even want to call it that, this early.
Yeah, all I can tell you is Lou has just attacked the whole process from the time he landed back here in the Twin Cities from London, and I'm just really proud of the way he's really embraced obviously the early parts of this rehab and attacking things with Tyler and Uriah, but also he's still every bit a part of our football team, and the guys in the locker room, whether it's pre-practice, post-practice. They're wrapping their arms around Lou. He feels every bit a part of this, and he knows how important he is to this organization, and that will not change throughout his entire rehab. I always love to try to get down there and see him as much as possible, and just let him know how great of a job he's doing early on here, and that will be the challenge throughout this this rehab that can be grueling at times when it becomes a little bit more physical. He's got to have the support of everybody in this organization, and he certainly will. But I'm proud of Lou and just excited about the way he's attacked this early on, and we'll see how things go here, in the next phase of his rehab when that starts.
Thanks.
Last one, Dave.
Kevin, Kirk talked yesterday about that 3rd down throw to Jefferson where he kind of went over the defender's back. He was pretty well covered. He sort of talked about his mindset, thinking he wasn't even sure if he should throw it still, despite the trust he has in Jefferson. Is that regardless of the outcome of the play? Like, is that a throw you want him to make?
Yes, and I thought it was a huge play in the game, and really it's all about your best players making a play happen that maybe it wasn't the best play call in the world. Maybe you could argue there was a more conservative decision to be made there at that moment. I think we had a running back underneath against the linebacker, and Kirk and I and Chris O'Hara, we had talked about that kind of exact scenario. And I thought Justin did a great job not trying to fight the leverage right there, just trying to win some vertical grass, and then Kirk to put it in the place he did, trusting JJ to make that play. I thought it was spectacular, and like I said, just a really momentum-changing play to help sustain that drive at that moment when we had to have it.
Thanks, everyone. We'll have KJ and Harrison Phillips up shortly.
Thanks, guys.